given the time, shall we just start, Ryan?
Yeah, let's start, I think.
Okay, perfect. So we're recording anyway, so if people are joining in later, then we can always send the recording out if they want to catch up. So everyone, welcome, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're dialing in from, and welcome to today's session. So today really is one of our Runecast and Prianto sessions where we're going to take you through what Runecast actually is, what we do, and what value we can bring to your customers. So it's very much an introduction. Saying that, if you want to know more, obviously reach out to Prianto, reach out to myself or anyone in Runecast that you're familiar with, and we're more than happy to dive deeper into this. But really today we're going to give you a introduction into Runecast, so to really bring you that understanding. So, little short introduction. My name is Michiel de Lepper. I'm Runecast Global Enablement Manager, and I've been within the IT security industry for well over 13, 14 years now. And within Runecast, I'm really focused on the channel. So I look at our channel strategy, I look at the programs and processes, but also enablement. So really enabling sales and technical people within our channel and working together with you to make both our mutual businesses a bigger success. So anything that we can do to help you, I'll most likely be involved either in the forefront or in the background. But if you have any questions around that, once again, right, reach out to me. So what are we going to talk about today? So really shortly, really briefly, we're going to talk about what is Runecast, and we're going to talk about the security and compliance challenges that are faced by modern enterprises. And then we're going to dive into our platform a little bit, and we're going to look at what kind of value we can bring to organizations and to your customers in this particular case. And really briefly how we work. Now, this is not going to be a technical presentation, so if you're not technical, don't worry. We can do technical presentations at some stage if you want to, but for today, it's really a high-level overview of what we do. So, who are we as Runecast, and what do we do? Right, that's always the question I get a lot. We're an AI-powered, patented solution that helps organizations to keep their workloads secure and compliant, wherever those workloads reside. Right, we don't care where they are, whether they're on premise or in the cloud. We want to make sure that they keep being secure and they keep being compliant. And the whole reasoning behind this is because for your customers, it reduces their operational overhead, it massively increases their visibility of their workloads, and it helps them to really assess and prioritize both vulnerabilities and also regulatory compliance. So in order to understand what we do, we first, of course, need to understand the challenges that customers face. So very briefly, let's dive into these a little bit, right? So we all know we need compliance. However, what we really don't talk about in general is why we need compliance. And everyone always comes back, well, we need compliance to do in order to do business, right? We're a financial institution, so we need PCI DSS. Oh, we're healthcare, so we need HIPAA. We're in the EU, so we need GDPR. We need those to do business. It's fair enough. But there's an underlying reason why that is. And that is because compliance helps organizations to really implement a set of checks and balances to ensure that they're operating as safely as possible. Because when you boil this down, compliance is driven by breaches. And I think we all know that the number of breaches is growing year over year. But we're also seeing a worrying trend that the number of records per breach is increasing. So not only do we have more breaches, they're also becoming more effective, which is the opposite of what we want, of course. And part of what is driving this is the increased complexity of the technologies that organizations are implementing. Things like hybrid and multi-cloud containerization. And all of these technologies combined gives us a better ability to do business, but at the same time, it exponentially increases the complexity. So in order to tackle that complexity, you need more people, right? It's always the answer, throw more bodies at it. There's, however, a massive shortage of skilled people in our industry. So, in effect, right, the fixes that you can do in an environment are being pushed out until there are enough resources to actually handle them. And this leads to customers being vulnerable for longer and increasing the likelihood of costly downtimes, either due to issues or due to attacks. So, this isn't just us saying this, right? When we look at the overall industry, 78% of companies are expecting an annual increase in regulatory compliance requirements. And this spreads across on-prem, hybrid cloud, and multi-cloud. And you might think, okay, cloud, well, not everyone is moving to the cloud. Well, almost everyone is moving to the cloud. Because when we look at the general industry again, over 80% of companies are already deploying across hybrid and multi-cloud. And this isn't just us saying this, right? And the problem with this is that the technology stack that you see in front of you is always presented in this way. And personally, I don't agree with this, right? Yes, the more technologies you add, the more complexity you get. However, to me, this looks like a linear lineup, and it's not a journey, right? The fact that you're going to private and public cloud doesn't mean you're going to chuck out your on-prem infrastructure. It's called a technology stack for a reason, because you're stacking these things actually on top of each other, exponentially increasing the complexity within your environments. And managing those is extremely challenging and time consuming because of that complexity. So we aim to help those customers. And we aim to help them by giving them a singular platform. And there's a lot of other vendors who say that, but we actually give them a singular platform in a singular architecture, which means we have one solution. You don't need to deploy 60 different components in order to have a platform. There's Runecast, and that's it. Because when we look at the IT infrastructure of most companies that have grown organically, this is very much what it looks like. And this is what I normally refer to as the plate of spaghetti. Right? We have our on-prem, we have our hybrid cloud and multi-cloud. And in order to manage all of those aspects of the business, we have multiple vendors. And those vendors all have multiple solutions which align to multiple different capabilities. Which is great, but managing all of this and tracking this and actually getting actionable intelligence out of these solutions is extremely hard, because you will have a disjointed management experience, you will have a disjointed reporting experience. So in order to run any sort of correlation, you need to do a lot of manual work, which isn't ideal. So in order to fix this, there must be a better way. And with Runecast, we enable customers to essentially do more with less. And we do this by giving them a single platform to really manage their compliance, their vulnerability, and their security across on-prem, hybrid cloud, and multi-cloud. And we also enable them to deploy containers effectively and safely and manage their existing infrastructure now and throughout the future. All of this from a single architecture. So let's look at the areas where we as a Runecast operate in. So when you look at our platform from a capabilities point of view, we can divide this into 4 subjects, right? We look at IT operations, where we're really looking at proactive problem management and we're doing best practice alignments. We can help you upgrade, and we can simulate upgrades so that when you run a simulation, you can see what might go wrong and fix this before you run it out. And of course, configuration drift management. Now, I'm going to stop on all of these things a little bit later, but these are key points for IT operations. And while we're doing IT operations, we're getting all of that info, we might as well do vulnerability assessments. And when we look at vulnerability assessment, not only do we look at CVE, so vulnerabilities, we give context around that. We're looking at known exploited vulnerabilities, or KEVs as they are known, and we apply that to your environment. So we're not just giving you information, we're giving you a risk-based prioritization, giving you actual actionable intelligence. And the next logical step is, of course, compliance. We're doing all of this stuff. Let's integrate this with compliance. And we don't want you to be compliant when an auditor comes in. We want you to be continuous compliance. Because compliance is there for security and protection, not because an auditor is in front of your door. So the ultimate goal is always to be continuously compliant, because that increases your safety and it minimizes risk. And because we operate in multi-cloud and hybrid cloud, obviously the next step for us is container security, where we're really looking to affect all of these measures as well, but then integrating with the CI/CD integration loop and making sure that when it comes to DevOps, we can help your organizations to shift their security left and make security part of the DevOps cycle instead of an afterthought. So these are the areas that we operate in, and I'd like to dive in a little bit deeper on each of these. So let's start with IT operations, right? So over 90% of issues are generally already documented. But the documentation, in effect, is only ever used once the issue presents itself. And this is really because it's no longer humanly possible to monitor all of those knowledge sources. And we're talking here about knowledge bases, best practice documents, but also forums, blog articles, social media. As a human, you can't keep track of this anymore. So automation in this area is absolutely essential to prevent costly outages. So we give you that information, we apply that to your environment and give you actionable results that really allow you to prevent issues before they become problems. We have automated scans against vendor or technology best practices and help you to elevate your environment really to that next level. You can create custom profiles for your internal best practices, and we give you remediation scripts where possible. So, hey, you have this issue, by the way, run this script and you can fix it. So all you need to do is just deploy that script. And of course, we do this on a continuous basis. And if you want, we can do integrations as well. So we integrate with ticketing service such as ServiceNow, Jira, but we also have an API. So we can integrate with almost anything. So we're very, very flexible, but we give you very strong intelligence when it comes to your IT operations. Another aspect that we do is, and mentioned this already in the beginning, right? We do an upgrade simulation. I'm not sure if anyone on the call has ever needed to do a VMware upgrade. It's atrocious, right? It's really, really difficult. So in a lot of times those get postponed and postponed. What we do, we can simulate your upgrade and check your entire infrastructure to see, okay, what will be the effect of this upgrade? And we look at this and we tell you exactly where you need to fix things before you upgrade. Making sure that when you push that upgrade into production, you can actually do that flawlessly within the maintenance window that you have without any unexpected downtime. This is incredibly strong if you're talking to IT operations. People absolutely love this, and we don't talk about this enough. When you look at our capabilities from an IT operations aspect, we can really break it down into 3 categories. We do inspection, because obviously we need to inspect, we need to gain visibility. Once we have visibility, we can tell you what's wrong. We can tell you what your baseline is. And once you have a good baseline, you have historical drift as well. Because once again, just like compliance, you shouldn't care about that moment in time. You should care about, well, you also should care about that moment in time, obviously, but not only that. You should care about a longer period in time. And you want to see historically how your infrastructure is doing, because an IT admin might make a tiny little change somewhere. But that tiny little change gets made 10 times and suddenly it becomes an issue. So tracking that over time and being able to proactively remediate that is extremely powerful. So inspect, baseline, and do the historical drift and really give you full control over your infrastructure. So that's the infrastructure side of things. Not all, of course. So let's look at this from a security and compliance point of view, because I think this is even more important and more relevant. So when we look at compliance, there is a process in place for this. And when we look at compliance, the very first thing we always need to do is gain visibility. I need to see what is out there. What's my actual environment? And then I start to need to assess, both from a security point of view, what kind of vulnerabilities are there out there, and also from a compliance point of view. Looking at these things from a compliance point of view and where am I drifting away from compliance? I report on that and then I start to remediate. And we're not done there, right? Once we do remediation, you need to verify. Has this actually resolved the issue, yes or no? And because we are aiming for continuous compliance, this is a process loop. This is a continuous process. So you once again go back to discovery. And whether you're talking about compliance or vulnerabilities, the process is exactly the same. So that is the understanding you need to understand what we do. Right? Runecast does exactly that, but we help you with that. We take all of that manual work away from you. So we will assess any deployments across the entire environment. And we assess them against compliance standards. And we report on this not with issues, but we report with findings. So we're giving you context, we're giving you prioritizations. And we track your compliance and, more importantly, your compliance drift, making your customers always audit ready instead of only audit ready when the auditor is in front of their doorstep. Right? And we automate those compliance assessments. So we're giving our customers continuous compliance instead of a series of snapshots. The biggest problem with audits is that once an audit is over, you don't know if you're compliant anymore. Right? It's a snapshot of a moment in time, which is great if your goal is pass an audit. It's not so great if you want to do the ultimate goal of compliance, which is being secure. Because ultimately, vulnerability management and compliance is attack surface reduction. Risk reduction, making you less likely to be breached and suffer the consequences. And when it comes to the compliance standards, we obviously support all of the major ones, right? GDPR, CIS, NIST, but also PCI, HIPAA, ISO 27001, right? All of the big ones we support. And we support a number of the smaller ones as well. And because of who we are as an organization, we have the luxury of being very agile. Right? If you talk to your customers as a partner and you find that we're lacking a certain compliance standard, tell us. And we will add it into our roadmap and we can move very fast on that. We recently added support for KVKK, which is the Turkish local equivalent of GDPR, essentially. So yes, we care about all of the big compliance standards, but we also care about the smaller ones. If we can help our customers with this, we will. So why does this matter, right? Well, I want to take here an example, and this is not the only reason why it matters, but I think it's a very relevant one, and that's ransomware, right? I'm sure all of your customers are worried about ransomware. And let's walk through how an attack actually works. So for me, this is second nature, right? I have a background in cybersecurity, but not everyone does that. So let's bring it back to the basics, right? So most ransomware attacks and also many other cybersecurity threats start essentially with a reconnaissance phase. And this is where threat actors will actually survey the infrastructure of an organization for any potential target systems that have outdated, unpatched, or otherwise vulnerable software packages or services running. Once these systems are identified, attackers will enter the second phase by exploiting the vulnerability and gaining access to the vulnerable system. And in general, this tends to be only rudimentary access, right? Things like remote code executions. But it's very much sufficient to connect to a command and control server and start downloading the payload. And once that payload is in your environment, it will then rapidly spread across the network. And in terms of ransomware, it will start to encrypt workloads, including mission critical workloads. And in many cases, your backup storage as well, leaving the affected organization with very few options to regain control over their data. And this is very, very topical, right? We hear it in the news constantly about ransomware attacks. And the most efficient protection against essentially any form of cyber attack is preventing it from happening in the first place. Runecast combines vulnerability assessments with the ability to continuously analyze the environment against a wide range of security best practices, but also security hardening guides, effectively reducing the potential attack surface drastically and making threat actors' reconnaissance phases and the subsequent payload delivery phase extremely difficult. Let's get rid of all of our vulnerabilities and make sure that the bad actors don't have any way of actually gaining a foothold in my infrastructure. It's a lot more effective than trying to combat the ransomware once it's already in your environment. Trust me, I've seen this happen loads of times in my career. It's really, really difficult once they're in your environment. So minimize that attack surface, minimize the opportunity that the bad guys have to actually gain entry and start deploying payloads. This is extremely valuable, but given the complexity of modern environments, doing this manually is extremely difficult. The Runecast can help you with this. So let's switch gears here a little bit and let's look at container security, right? Container security is, you could say, the bane of my existence. From a dev point of view, I absolutely love containers and the flexibility and the agility that they offer. From a security point of view, I absolutely hate containers. Because the problem with containers is that security isn't taken into account until after they've been deployed in production as an afterthought. So with Runecast, we can change that. So not only do we apply the knowledge against containers, we also integrate into the DevOps cycles. And we do this by integrating with the Kubernetes admission controller, really allowing your customers to shift security left and make security and compliance part of the dev process instead of an afterthought, but without massively impacting that CI/CD pipeline or their workflow, right? Allowing them to still be agile and to still be really rapid in their development, but taking security into account. And by integrating with the Kubernetes admission controller, we allow customers to set policies around pushing things into production. So DevOps will develop things and we will scan that for vulnerabilities and criticalities. And you can set policies around this to make sure that anything with critical vulnerabilities aren't being pushed out to production. Because once they're in production, it's too late. You need to do that within the DevOps cycle, which is exactly what shifting left means. So container security is really everything else that we do, but really integrating with that CI/CD pipeline and making security really an integral part of DevOps. So let's shift gears here a little bit again. And what does this actually mean? What does this mean for your customers? Well, if there's one slide you need to remember, it will be this one. Right? What value do we bring to your customers by deploying and allowing them to use Runecast? Obviously, major time savings. You can automate security compliance auditing and remediation, which results in less troubleshooting, and it allows for vulnerability prioritization. So if you get a list of 100 vulnerabilities, how do you choose which one you should fix first? You can only do that if you have prioritizations in place. And looking at criticality and risk. By doing that, we're reducing outages, so you can discover and remediate hidden issues before they cause outages. We improve security, as we mentioned before, right? Vulnerability and security posture management makes for a secure deployment. And also we offer continuous compliance for all of the right reasons. Right? You shouldn't care about your single snapshot. You should care about the status of your compliance on a day-to-day basis. Because you will have compliance drift, and compliance drift needs to be remediated before it becomes a problem. And we can help with that by giving customers that visibility. So overall, we reduce cost, right? Not just by preventing security breaches and outages, but also by saving time and avoiding audit penalties. And don't mistake that one, right? Failing an audit can be extremely costly. So this is the value that we bring to customers. And don't just believe me, right? This is a snapshot of some of our customers. So it's not like we're just saying this. There's a reason why we're saying that. And this is because all of these customers agree with us. So a lot of these case studies are available on our website as well. If you want to know more, you can go to our website, or you can reach out to us as well. Of course, we're happy to talk around them. But we're out there and we're doing great business. Customers see the benefit that we can bring. So we're nearly there. I'm looking at the time. We got about 6 minutes left. So how do we work, right? From a basic point of view, right? We do a lot more, but in a very basic boiled down principles, this is essentially what we do. We take all of the knowledge that's out there and we use an AI assisted knowledge parser for that. So essentially we have AI going out onto the internet, crawling through all of those knowledge sources and gathering that information for you. The only problem with that information, though, is that it's written for us humans to consume, which is great, but throw that at a computer and right, any program can't do anything with that. So we also have a patented rules engine that essentially takes that human readable knowledge that our machine learning agents crawled from the internet, and we translate that into something that a machine can understand. And we then apply that to your environment, drastically easing the burden of operations for any single customer. This is in very much layman's terms what we do. So where do we do it? Well, this is what we support, right? We support the 3 big hyperscalers in the cloud, AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform, although that is now, I think, rebranded into Google Cloud. They got rid of the platform somehow. We support all of the major flavors of Kubernetes. And then when we look at the infrastructure space, we support Windows, we support Linux, and of course, the entire VMware spectrum. So essentially all of your workloads we support. And in terms of deployment, right, we're very flexible, right? You can deploy us whether in multi-cloud, Kubernetes, hybrid cloud, on-prem, but we can also do true air-gapped. And note that I say true air-gapped here, right? There's a lot of vendors out there who say, oh yeah, we're air-gapped, but ever so often you need to connect to the internet, or the first install needs to be connected to a network. That kind of defeats the purpose of air-gapped. We can operate fully 100% offline. Content updates can be downloaded, put on a USB stick, and put into a bastion for dissemination across the Runecast analyzer. So we can absolutely do true air-gapped. From a deployment formats, we're very flexible as well. Right? Whether you want to download an OVA and create a virtual machine yourself, or we have a Helm file, we can do the HPE marketplace, or all of the major cloud marketplaces as well. So we're very easy to work with. We're very easy to deploy and very flexible. But really, the main thing is the value that we bring to customers. So I got about 3 minutes left. So with that, thank you very much for your time. And I'd like to check if there's any questions. Anything I can clarify. Okay, someone is typing, so there will be questions. I love questions. Awesome, cool. That wasn't a question, it was a compliment. That's cool as well. So, given the time, right, we're 1 minute from our end time. First of all, once again, apologies for the slight technical issues at the beginning, but I really hope this was useful for everyone and that you got a better understanding of who we are as an organization and what value we can actually bring to your customers. We're extremely eager to work with you. We're part of my merit is moving out, branching out more into the channel world, right? This is one of the reasons I came on board with Runecast. We are a channel first company since about a year and a half ago. So all of our business will be going through the channel. And quick actual question, yes, there is a partner portal that we have. Absolutely. Please reach out to Ryan and we can help you with that and get you access to that. But we absolutely do have a partner portal. There's information on there, and it's one of the things I took ownership of, so there will be more information on there going forward as well. Let's see. Okay, so no further questions. Well, with that, right on time, thank you very, very much for your time and your attention. Hope it was useful. And if there's ever anything, please do reach out to me. I'd love to talk to each and every one of you and really understand your business and see how we can work together and do a truckload of business, right? Because that's what we all want to do. So with that, thank you very much and have a great rest of the day. Hopefully talk to you soon.